Wow, I did not expect this video to happen as soon as it did, but thanks to J Prime, I'm not even gonna fluff it like this was high up on my list or anything, but J Prime alone wanted me to cover the Krypton pistol, and he was the lone soldier dying on that hill. And I told him specifically, if he could start a movement to get people to want me to cover the Krypton pistol, then you know what? I'd move it up my list and give it some time. And you know what he did? He got a hashtag spamming in all my streams, got it going in the daily videos, and when I called a vote on stream later after those events even, people voted for the Krypton pistol. So here we are, talking about the neon pistol itself, the Krypton pistol. You'll be surprised to find out that it's actually not even that bad. So the Krypton pistol is 1 or 2 shotting pretty much every single one of the normal enemies, which is pretty bad for a regular enemy because in the very first encampment that I, went against to get gameplay for this video, you get to see one of the glaring problems with a pistol. Now, the Krypton pistol copy that I'm using has affliction on it, so I'm not getting that area of effect damage, which would come with the headshot eliminations cause an explosion. That would give some nice area of effect damage. It would eliminate some of the enemies around the one that I'm shooting at, and that would help clear larger crowds easier, which is essential if a weapon is going to be your primary. That is why pistols aren't very often used by the player base, or you'll never see me using a pistol as my primary unless I'm just having some fun. It just falls short as a good primary weapon when it can't eliminate large enemies at once. So when you're going up against an encampment, you're probably going to want something like headshot eliminations to get through that. However, if you can get past the multi-target damage, which it is sort of lacking in, its single target damage is actually pretty good. Now, I actually went up against a smasher towards the end of my recording to find, whether or not this was actually going to hold up, and for a pistol, I think it held its own. By no means am I arguing that this is the best weapon of the game or anything dramatic like that, but it does actually perform well enough to where you could give it a go and not even regret it. So it's not anything top tier. It's not one of the best pistols in the game, but it's far from the worst. I'd probably give it like a B tier rating. So it's also one of those weapons where it has sort of a limited fire rate. You're not going to be able to spam it as much as possible. It will even slow you down if you try to shoot too fast. So you sort of want to get into the rhythm of it, figure out how fast it's going to shoot. And once you get in sync with the weapon's fire rate, you'll actually be able to shoot at a pretty consistent speed, and you won't even feel like it's stalling. So that pretty much covers it for the Krypton pistol gameplay side of things. There's really nothing too in-depth to talk about. I mean, aim for the head, you'll do twice as much damage and all that good stuff. But without further ado, I guess we can get into the best perks for the Krypton pistol, which aren't going to be that complicated. I actually want to start with the element because there are a lot of options here. Universally, energy is going to be the best all around. There's not really going to be too much need for any other element. Right now we are in a water zone because I'm talking about this during the winter time. So, a nature element would be great on this thing, but I can't really recommend anything other than energy. So as for the 6th perk, this is where I wanted to get talking right away. So we do have the damage to affliction and damage to slowed and snared options on this weapon, but the headshot eliminations cause an explosion is only ever recommended by me when I'm talking about pistols, because that will be not only where you want to be aiming anyway. You want to be aiming for the head just to do literally 42,000 damage instead of 24. That is I think almost double damage just by aiming at the head. So you're going to want to be aiming for the head anyway, and you're going to require that area of effect damage if you're using this as a primary weapon for some reason. But if you're potentially just using this for a secondary, maybe just to clean up larger targets, then I guess damage to affliction or slowed and snared would be nice, because after your first shot, everything's going to get a 45% boost. That is pretty convenient, and affliction also helped chip away at some of those targets that didn't die in the first shot as well. However, what would have also chipped away would have been a headshot, so it kind of goes both ways. If you are going to be using the headshot eliminations, then damage to mist monsters and bosses is probably the way you're going to want to go, because while it does have pretty good single target damage, those are the enemies that are going to take the most amount of time to kill, and you might actually need the most help on them. As for the regular perks, it's pretty standard. I always like to say for the SMGs and ARs that fire rate and damage is sort of the exact same DPS as a crit build, but when it comes to a pistol, you're not really going to be getting enough shots off to really make that make sense. Now, for a lot of pistols, I'd recommend headshot damage if you're going to be aiming for the head, but you don't really get a double headshot boost on this weapon, so it doesn't really make a ton of sense. And you could go double crit damage if you wanted to just be hilarious and run like a totally rocking out double crit damage build. I don't see any reason you couldn't do that, but that is fairly unusual because of the one topic that I've been trying to avoid, and that is the obvious that there are probably better options in the Krypton pistol to be using. But I'm just saying, if you're using totally rocking out, double crit damage would be the way to go. Or you could even go double reload if you're just trying to be an absolute goof, because if you're using this weapon, you probably are just screwing around. However, if you want to take a little bit more of a serious approach, then I do believe reload is probably the best way to go, because more mag size can be nice for a pistol. However, it is kind of, only shooting 10 shots before reloading. So you're going to be reloading a lot. So to be able to jump out of the fight, reload quickly, and get back into it is very, very essential to, staying alive. So I can't really recommend anything other than reload, but if you don't mind the reload speed and you don't feel like you need more mag size, obviously damage would be more damage per bullet. And even more so would potentially help you one-shot enemies if you don't crit, which is pretty nice to have because that will definitely happen. And with a 43% chance to crit, there's not really too much of a reason not to go with a crit build on this, obviously. Obviously, so 43% of the time your critting is a lot better than normal weapons, and this is going to be a pretty decent weapon. Now, when it comes to pistols, I actually do have to use a different loadout than usual, so I think it's actually worth talking about. A lot of people would recommend Calamity, and I think it makes sense if you're trying to maximize this weapon's potential to actually use Quick Draw Calamity in the lead and then just try to reload every 6 shots. That could be a very effective way to make this weapon significantly better than you saw in the gameplay, but the loadout I was using was, just to put it back to normal, was Ranger Deadeye in the lead for the 50% bonus, because that's just something I like to have. I like to have that 50% all the time rather than the 225%, 43% of the time. So I just decided to put Beetlejuice in support rather than the lead because that extra crit damage is definitely nice if you're going to be running a crit build. And then locked and reloaded is just sort of nice. I mean, what else do you want down there? An extra 15% because you're going to be reloading constantly. Or, like I said, Calamity's still not that bad of an option. It would only be your first 6 shots, but 60% of your bullets being buffed by 20% is nice. I don't know if that works out to be better than, well, I guess what's 60% of 20? Would that be less than 15? So, just saying, there are other ways you could go around this, but it depends on exactly how you're going to be playing. And then if you're going to be running Blast from the Past, I can't recommend not using coconuts because that extra 16% bonus is going to help a lot. But that just about covers it for the Krypton pistol, you guys. I don't know what else to say about this weapon. If you guys enjoyed this video, feel free to use code Mista at your checkout. I'd very much so appreciate it. If you want me to cover any crazy off-the-wall weapon and are somehow as successful as J Prime in, rallying the troops, then be sure to leave a comment down below and be persistent in my stream chat. I don't want to encourage this behavior too much because it will get very, very spammy, but once in a while, I do get a kick out of it, and I appreciate the fun that we've had. If you guys want to become a channel member and support the channel, you guys can do so with the join button on the channel here, or the link in the description below. Follow me on Twitch, where I record some of these videos and stream quite often. My streams are pretty awesome, so you should follow me anyway. Link below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a nice day. All right, well, we had about 20 seconds of extra time to fill in this video, so chat and I were considering a pizza joke, but that would be a little too cheesy, and a lot of people were actually considering elevator jokes, which were kind of funny, because those work on a lot of levels, but honestly, I think one of the better jokes that we came up with was like a construction joke, but I didn't think the payout would be worth it because that would have been too much build up. And then